Right, we have jacked up our vehicle and we have got axle stands just to make sure it's nice and safe under there, and we are going to now attempt to try and drop the fuel tank. I can see that I haven't got a lot of space to do it, but it's far enough off the ground probably, and let's see how we get on. First things first, there is this heat shield which needs to be taken out. So I believe they are 10mm bolt. So I've got the heat shield off, and then there's this thingy at the end which I've got to work out how to take off. So and then at the other end, the drive shaft. Looking here, we've got a connector on the filler hose, and then up in there there are two hoses that need disconnecting. That one there has got a yellow kind of clamp on it, and there's another one somewhere that's got a squeezy connector that you squeeze together and disconnect. Right, so I'm going to do that. Right, as you can see, we have got down to this page where I've taken off the circular, I don't know what they're called, Jubilee clip. Or something, but it, just out of interest, I don't know if it is interesting, this has got a tamper-proof end on it, so it's actually very difficult to get off. So I used my small mole grips to do that. That's the clip. So that's the clip that was on around, and this now is the I'm going to take out the fuel tank house. Now I'm going to take out the pump assembly. So this is, just got to say that this is a really difficult job to do. I am quite a seasoned mechanic, but I admit that I am not in the best of health. I'm on dialysis at the moment, and this is extremely difficult to do. So if you're feeling, if you're not a particularly experienced DIY, I wouldn't recommend this repair. I've kind of found that the bolts were extremely stiff, and I didn't know that they were captured. So they've got washers on them. So down here they've got washers on them, which means that they I wasn't sure whether they'd sheared off, because you get a situation where you got captive nuts and you screw the bolts onto them, and because I didn't know that it had this. So in other videos they don't tell you this, and also they show you it all nicely and cleaned up, and it is very messy. All the pipes are leaking a bit of diesel, and I couldn't get the pipes off where on my 2007, people say disconnect the pipes at the front. Well, pipes at the front are connected to the fuel filter in a really difficult way. So what I have done in the end is actually disconnected the pipes from the tank here, and you do that by inserting a screwdriver into the slots and just pushing very gently up the connector, the clips, and the pipes do come out quite easily. You've got to be very gentle, otherwise you're going to break those off because they're really flimsy. The power connector wasn't too difficult, that was just a clip. And then at the back here, this larger connector was I just used my mole grips to compress it, and it popped off, and that's one of the pipes going up back. Now I've disconnected the pipes at the back, but it didn't just drop down. They didn't just drop down when the tank came down, so I've had to disconnect them from here, and they're also clipped on to the side of the tank. Show you clips. There's a clip there, and there's one at the back, and it was actually easier just to unclip those, pull the tank out a bit, because the limited clearance I've got. I mean, this would be 1,000 times easier with a ramp, and the limited clearance just means that you haven't really got, you can't really do much until you've disconnected everything on the hoses. So the next stage I've got is I'm going to try and ease out well, this bit on the top, I don't know what that's called. So the top part of the fuel pump assembly, and then I'm gonna go in and try and get the actual fuel pump module out of the tank. Right, I'm going to clean this up a lot more before I start doing anything, because I can see that getting contamination in the fuel tank at this rate, and I'm not 100% confident at the moment. So I'm going to go and get some more wipes, just clean up around this area, because I'm going to keep touching it and it's going to contaminate everything. Right, that's better. See what we've got in here. What around here as well. So this is not too dirty. Right, so we've got some wiring connectors on here, clipped on there. We've got a pipe here, and there's another larger pipe at the back. There's a pipe here. Right, so I squeeze that one and it comes off. This big one at the back here, that will need probably the mole grips again. And these wiring connectors look like they just pop out. Pull these apart. There's a lot going on in there. This is where you need 3 hands. Right, so a small pipe. fuel pipe comes out by pushing up. There's it's like on the airlines where you push in a washer and it pops out. So I've got that. Actually, that's quite good. So with that off, a bit more room now. Got brown, yellow, and then white facing back towards the end of the car. Aha. Right, it's a bit of a faff. That's my green washer, and you keep hold of that. I'm going to clean all this up. And right, I'm going to switch out my gloves now for another pair so they're a bit cleaner. So you can see into the fuel tank. It looks alright. I'll go and get a light in a minute and I'll shine it in there. But in there we can see that there is a green clip. It's hard to see, but there's a green clip that is around the pump module. That's what we want to get out. So we've got to get that out. So we have to unclip it from the side. So it's hard to see with all the bits in the way. I don't want to touch it without putting gloves on. Right, after an awful lot of wrestling, I've got this thing out. So you've got to be careful that when you manoeuvre it out of the hole, you don't break off the fuel sender. The actual offending motor, the fuel pump, is actually nested in there. And as you can see around the side, there are some clips. There's a metal clip down here. And it all looks as if it's quite modular and is going to come apart. Some people buy the whole thing, which is quite a lot of money. I've bought just the pump, which is £40. So that's a more reasonable cost. I can see that the wiring connector is going to be required for the new pump, so this I'm going to chop off and solder on the new pump onto the old connector and put some heat shrink on there and make sure that it's nice and secure. But it is a real faff to do this, so unless you're feeling very brave, I would not attempt it. Interesting, in the bottom of there, looks like a little cap from, that might be from when I poured some engine fuel additive into the car. So that's got in there. It's a little bit dirty in here, so I'll give that a clean out. This actual fuel strainer on here is actually really dirty, so I'm wondering whether that is impeding the pump from actually operating very well. Obviously here's this is the pump here that we want to get to. Just got to work out how to remove the bits and then put it all back together. So the fuel strainer that comes with the pump that I've bought is this. Now it doesn't really look a lot like this. So, and I'm sure it'll work fine, but I'm just not convinced that it's as good at filtering. And I'm going to take the gamble to reuse this because I think Land Rover on the whole tend to make good quality components, even though things can be really difficult to disassemble, but the component quality is good. So I've just got to work out how to get the hose off the back of the old fuel pump, which is proving to be quite stiff. I might apply hot air gun to it and see whether I can just free it up a little bit without putting too much heat into it, but at the moment it's definitely being really stubborn, so making it very difficult to do anything. Also cleaned out the inside of this, that was quite grubby. Right, so I finally finished reassembling the pump. I have soldered my new connections on, which you can just about see, which are hiding in there. And then we have got the pump. The new pump is in there. I've reused the mesh filter, clipped it back together, put this bit back in the bottom, clip this bit back together, and then I've re-cable tied here, made sure that this pipe is correctly assembled, which is the breather pipe of some description, and then this I thought was cable tied, but it's not, so that's free. And then the last bit I have to put back on is just, I'm going to clip that back in, which just pushes back into its mounting point. Right, helpful tip if that's possible. When I took off the circlip, when I took off the big Jubilee clip off of the fuel tank retainer, it had this annoying metal cap on it, and I've since discovered that it is not well, it's just a security feature. So what it was, when I took it off, there was like a little pinprick in it. I realised that was just really thin metal, and I stuck across a flat blade screwdriver into it, and it punctured the little membrane, and then it meant that you could have actually undone the clip using a screwdriver. Now I prefer to do them up with a spanner, so I then thought, well, if that's got that on it, then I suspect this is just concealing a Jubilee clip. So I got my Dremel out and I've carefully ground it down until it just sort of gave up and has been able to be popped off. So that will just make reassembly so much easier, so I'm happy with that. Cool. Right, after a very long time, I've managed to get the fuel tank back in. I've just done the thing, I'm not going to show it, but I've taken off the Schrader valve cap and I put a hose onto it. And then I've taken out this fuse, which is the fuel pump, the low pressure fuel pump, and I jumped it with my multimeter, and then I just checked the current, so I know that I'm getting a good current, and it's delivering a good amount of fuel. So fingers crossed, everything's sorted out now.